And welcome to the CoLab FXBG podcast. We're broadcasting from our media studio right here in South Point, here in South Fredericksburg, doing exactly what we're doing here today, which is interviewing business owners and content creators that are moving the needle here in the Fredericksburg community. And I am pleased today to be able to introduce our first guest here, Les Wall. Les Wall is a realtor with LPT Realty. And I really feel like he brings a unique perspective that I'm excited for him to be able to share with us today, as he really made a bit of a career pivot and has some really unique perspectives on how utilizing media has brought a unique perspective to your brand and a unique perspective to the way that you can really help clients moving forward today. So we're absolutely pleased to be able to have you here, Les,
Thank you.
To be able to have you here on the CoLab FXBG podcast. And speaking of, one of the first aspects that I wanted to get into, because I know it's something that's on a lot of folks' mind, is what were some of the thought processes that you had when you were thinking about like changing your industries completely? So for instance, you moved from a career in ministry and in education to a role where success is largely dependent on your connections and your ability to close. So thinking about that, what was the most difficult mental hurdle of transitioning not just from one job to another, but to a totally different career?
Thank you, Andrew. It's a privilege to be here with you this evening. Speaking of transferring from one career to another, my mother was a real estate agent, and I went into teaching right out of college, and I taught for 26 years. And we took a teaching position actually in this area, and it wasn't exactly what we had thought it was. And so at the age of 50, there came a time in my life that I needed to switch careers, and I didn't want to leave the area. My daughter and son had just started into a school, and I didn't want to take them out of that school. I wanted my daughter, she was in her senior year, and I wanted to let her stay there. So my mother had been a real estate agent, and I always said in the back of my mind, I knew I wanted to teach, but if I ever needed to, I wanted to try my hand at real estate. And when that happened here in this area, I thought, what better area, what better place to start a new real estate career? And that's what I did. That was pretty difficult. It was a faith journey, but the Lord saw us through.
Absolutely. And thinking of that jump, a lot of folks I'm sure out there are thinking of making a similar leap. I've known friends and family members that have considered maybe even jumping into real estate, right? And it's a total change from what they're in. What are some of the considerations that you would have for somebody who's considering making that leap? What were the things that kind of went on in your mind, and what's the advice that you give to somebody considering such a leap?
Well, as you said, real estate is a commission-based job. And so however hard you work is how much money you make. If you don't work hard, if you can't be lazy and be a real estate agent, you have to put yourself out there. And you mentioned something about the media things that we do, and I'm not going to jump ahead of myself, but I would just say know that this is what you're supposed to be doing, because there will be challenging times like anything. But if you can get through those challenging times, it's certainly rewarding.
Absolutely. So knowing what you're designed to do, knowing what you're made to do, and knowing that this is it definitely plays a huge factor for a lot of folks when considering that jump. Something else that's very interesting with that is you utilized tools and a giftedness that you had already had when you made the jump into real estate. You've always really defined yourself in the real estate game as an educator, and that education and specifically that coaching edge that you bring to the table, I think provides a lot of value to a lot of clients. So how do you feel like that coach mentality, that teacher's edge really helps you to be able to best take care of your clients?
Well, our clients, when they come to us, most of them don't understand all the ins and outs of real estate. They just know that they need to move from point A to point B, but there are hundreds and hundreds of details that need to happen for that process to go smoothly. And my teaching side of me basically will helps me to explain those things in a way that they can understand them, and just to guide them and to coach them and just to basically be there for them during this transition in their lives.
So how do you feel like that as well would set you apart from, for instance, for somebody who's solely focused on the sales side of things?
Well, I am not a transaction and a transactional realtor. I am a focused realtor on helping people. And I've sold my own children who live in this area. I've sold 3 of them homes, and we've gone in houses. I was just on a Zoom call with a new client this evening, and they were saying, well, how would you tell us if you did not think that this was the house for us? And I told them that I treat all of my clients a lot like family, and I just really try to look out for the very best possible houses for them. And I'm not just trying to make a sale. I'm not just trying to make a commission. I'm trying to make sure that my clients get into the best possible situation. I try to help people find their dream homes.
Absolutely. And as a realtor, you've now found your home with LPT Realty. And I know you've mentioned to me before some of the different values and the benefits that really, number one, led you to that decision. So let me ask, just starting from the beginning before we get into the details of what value that brings, what were the aspects that led you from real estate in general to seeing the value in specifically working with LPT Realty?
Well, LPT Realty is a cloud brokerage, and I'm also on a team. I'll talk a little bit about that. Jacobs & Co. I was with a brokerage, a very well-known international brokerage before, and then I moved over to a smaller boutique kind of brokerage with Jacobs & Co. And then Scott Jacobs took Jacobs & Co. under the umbrella of LPT. So I have a lot of different advantages for my clients and the 2 brokerages that I'm really align myself with. Jacobs & Co., we have a videographer. We do a lot. You mentioned about our media presentations that we do. We do a lot with video. We have a full-time videographer who helps us with our listings and different informational videos that we can do. I have my own Matterport camera. I do my own 3D scans of all my listings. And that way I'm able to do other things that the average photographer that sells Matterport scans wouldn't do, like 360 views outside of homes and floor plans and those sorts of things. So I have the videography, the Matterport 3D scans, the floor plans. Of course, I hire a professional photographer. Right. I'm not a professional photographer. I've seen a lot of agents. They'll take pictures with their iPhones or whatever. And I always want to present my listings in the very best possible manner.
Absolutely. And even thinking through that and the steps that you took in order to be a part of that. I know you mentioned your relationship even with Scott Jacobs began even prior to that too. And you're always driven by being able to do more for your clients. And that comes through with the way that you transact. But that was also a big part of you even making the jump over to LPT Realty. Tell me a little bit about what kind of intrigued you about that relationship and just the different things that you've been able to kind of take on or recognize as a part of that relationship and partnership.
Well, February of 2020, We all can remember that, and we can all also remember what happened in March of 2020. But in February of 2020, I was trying, a big brokerage was trying to recruit me, and they were also trying to recruit Scott Jacobs. And they flew us both down to their family reunion, they call it. That's their national conference that they have every year. And so they flew us down there, and I got to know Scott during that particular time. And then fast forward, I didn't end up going to that brokerage, and neither did Scott. Fast forward a year or so later, or 3 years, I guess, I was talking to my broker, because I was getting some people that were wanting to get into commercial and land and those sorts of things, industrial. And I asked my broker of where I was if there was anyone in our brokerage that could mentor me in the areas of land and commercial and industrial. And she said, Les, she said, if I have anything like that, I call Scott Jacobs and I just get a referral fee from him. I give them to Scott Jacobs. Well, that intrigued me, and I'd already met Scott Jacobs. And so I gave him a call and we talked. And I just felt like it was time for us to move in that direction, because I wanted to add more to my portfolio, commercial and land and industrial to my portfolio.
Absolutely. And when you're talking about with LPT Realty, the value that that provides, obviously it's a ton of benefit to you working for a brokerage that focuses on the media side. And you've mentioned those different aspects, being able to do the 3D models with the Matterport and some of the other videography. Now, what would you say to a client who's concerned and they're thinking, hey, you know what, my listing's maybe not the biggest listing. Maybe my listing might not be worth pulling out all the flashy gadgets for, different things along those ends. What would you say to somebody who might be concerned?
Well, it's an expense factor. And some agents will say, I won't do a drone unless maybe it's $1 million+ house, or I won't do this or that. But I have the same package that I do for all of my listings, whether they're 500,000, less than that, or over $1 million, or more than that. And I believe that all of my listings, I want to put the best foot forward on all of them, because in this area, we live in a different area in that people are coming here, they're moving here, and a lot of people buy homes just by what they see in the media and the websites. We have our own personal home property websites that we do for all of our listings. And so I try to put my best foot forward, not just for the super expensive homes, but for every home, because I just believe that every customer deserves that royal treatment, I call it.
And even with that in mind, I know you've expressed with me before, obviously the value of being able to meet with clients virtually, but also you mentioned the value of that in the sense of even helping clients around the world find their home without setting foot inside of their home. Tell us a little bit about that experience and how that's just another one of those benefits that can come along with being able to have those professional photography, video, etc., in place.
Right. Well, because of our premier marketing program and plan that we do, we have sold a lot of our listings sight unseen to buyers in Guam and all over the world. But also for my buyers, I have also helped them as well. I will get calls from a buyer and they want to see a home, and maybe they can't be here, but so I'll FaceTime them through a home and I'll go through the homes and I will help them in that regard as well, because we live in an area where if someone comes into the area or moves out of the area, usually someone else is moving in the area to take their place. And so we have a very transient area in that way with the federal government and the military. And so I love helping those sorts of clients as well.
So you've also talked about on the marketing side that you believe that there are maybe some aspects that maybe realtors or maybe business owners in general might be underutilizing? What would be some of those aspects where you feel like, hey, maybe business owners might be able to take a page out of the realtor playbook to be able to help continue to build, grow, and maybe even retain their brand?
Well, I've found more and more that social media is key. And a lot of the people, a lot of the top producers, at least in the real estate side of things, are big on social media with their videos and their, as we've said, the 3D Matterport scans and different things like that. And reels are very big right now. And people will find their agents through that, as well as, Chat GPT and Claude and those sorts of things. And even Chat GPT, I utilize to help me write some scripts for some of my videos, that whether they're informational videos or whether they're listing videos, and those sorts of things. We have so many things at our fingertips that we can use, so many resources that we can use. And it's important to have someone that is up on those resources and putting their best foot forward for their clients.
Absolutely. When it comes to the aspect of putting your best foot forward, one of the things that I've also noticed that you go out of your way to do, being a client of yours as well, you mentioned it this way, maybe staying top of mind for clients with kind of continued touch points as well too. Maybe speak a little bit to the value that that's provided to you, to your clients, and how that might also benefit even local business owners as they're considering implementing a strategy like that.
One of the things I love, we've talked a lot about our digital marketing plan, but one of the things I love about LPT Realty is called LPT, really stands for Listing Power Tools. And Listing Power Tools, Robert Palmer, the CEO of LPT Realty, he had this program, and I used to hear about it 10, 15 years ago when I was in real estate and starting into it, where you could pay a certain amount of money, and for each listing that you get, they would put together a box of print material, because print material is very important also, and door hangers and brochures and different cards and business cards with the pictures of the homes on it, and riders that you put on your sign that have text messages that someone can text a number to a certain number and then get all the information about that property. And so it's not just the digital, it's the print as well. And another thing I do with print, I send cards out to my clients every month. And not the same clients every month, but I have them divided up. And just like you said, to let them know that I'm here, I'm still in business, and just helps us to stay top of mind, so that when my clients may have a real estate need, or they'll hear of a friend that has a real estate need, they know that we're right there and we will be there and we'll help them in any way that we can.
We've also recognized that personally, having been clients as well with Les, is we recognize that anytime we were looking either to be able to get in touch with you, Les, or as well if we were looking to pass your information along to somebody else, literally probably within a few steps away, we would either have a magazine that you sent out, maybe it was a calendar or a recipe book or a recent card that you had sent out. And I do feel like that's so underutilized by a lot of businesses in general. And I think that's a great strategy to be able to utilize, as you've mentioned, that it's been valuable for you as well too. Thinking about some practical aspects for our homeowners here in the Fredericksburg area, or maybe in Northern Virginia, and I know you have a wide area that you reach out to as well, Les, with your real estate licenses. There's been a lot of focus recently on first-time home buyers, right? There's a lot that's out there on social media that's specifically dedicated towards that. But I know when you were speaking with me that you mentioned that one of the areas that you also prioritize for clients is first-time home sellers. What are some of the biggest tips that you have for first-time home sellers that are starting through that process?
Well, thank you for bringing that up, because that is something, as you said, we always have all these programs, first-time home buyers, but there's very little about first-time home sellers. A lot of times sellers, they don't know when they're getting ready to put their house on the market. They don't know exactly what to do or how to do it or how to present their property. And so what my wife Angela and I will do, we will go through not just first-time home sellers, but we have several sellers that we've sold them the house, and then now we're selling that said house. And so, but my wife Angela and I, we will go through the properties and tell them what the first time buyer's first impression. You always want to make that house, give it a good first impression. And one of the things you've probably heard over and over again is to depersonalize, take personal pictures off the walls. Because when a person walks into your house, if you're trying to sell it, you want them to be able to feel at home. And if they see pictures of all these different others on the walls, they won't be able to really imagine themselves living there. And that's just that's the key thing. One of the things that we really stress to our sellers, whether they're first time or not.
So with mentioning getting your home ready for sale and being able to put it up on the market, especially for a first-time home seller, what would you say are some of the other most valuable, the highest bang for the buck, really steps or improvements that a homeowner can take to be able to increase the value of their home while they're preparing it to be sold?
Well, I always say that the two least expensive things that you can do to your property to make the biggest difference are paint and flooring or carpeting, but primarily flooring. And so you may not be able to put in you may need windows, but you may not be able to put all new windows in, or even a roof, but the paint and the carpeting just make a big difference. And I have a listing that's on the market right now. They needed new carpeting, and I really encouraged them to get that before we put it on the market, and they did. And we're receiving a lot of showings on that property right now, and I believe it's about ready to go under contract.
Absolutely. And being a realtor that covers obviously both the local Fredericksburg area and as well even the larger greater Northern Virginia area, what are some of the aspects for folks that are looking to move into the area when they're deciding the area that they want to move into, whether it's here locally in Fredericksburg, maybe up north closer to DC? I know you cover a wide gamut, but what are some of the factors that somebody should consider when they are selecting the location that they want to set up their roots?
Well, typically the commute. If you want a short commute, and most people, when they're moving to this area, they're working close to or in Washington, D.C. And if you want a shorter commute and you want to live on the Virginia side, then you'll probably be looking for Arlington or Alexandria or Lorton, and some of those places. And typically, just the way it works is the closer you are to DC, the higher the home prices are going to be. And a lot of people have, if you don't mind, say a 45-minute to an hour commute and don't mind that, then a lot of people will live in Fredericksburg or maybe Stafford. But that's the one thing you need to decide. If you want a short commute, then you need to be in some of those areas that I just mentioned.
Absolutely. Thinking about the area and specifically the Fredericksburg community, right? What are some of the directions. I know you got Lake of the Woods and different things out that way for some folks that are trying to get that type of a feel. You have folks that are settling down maybe closer to downtown Fredericksburg or the shopping near Central Park, or maybe they're closer to us down here in South Point or further out towards Spotsylvania. What kind of thought process or direction would you have for somebody who's coming to kind of set their roots more in our local community?
Well, I've sold in, also do 55 plus, and there's a 55 plus called Celebrate Virginia that's down here. And I've sold to clients in there, and they loved that because that was their niche. That's what they were looking for. But just to be in some people just want neighborhoods. Some people want a large backyard. I know the house that we were able to find for you. You guys have a large fenced in backyard. And I know your wife loves that, and so do you as well.
Absolutely.
But so it all depends on what people are looking for. If you want to, you can get more bang for your buck, I guess you could say, if you are down here in Fredericksburg. And a lot of people do that because over the weekend and they just enjoy their kind of a rural type of a feel. We, in our particular place where we found it, my wife and I live in Manassas, and we found a rural type of a feel because that's what we wanted on an acre of ground and those sorts of things. So there's a variety of things that in Fredericksburg and the outlying areas that you can find just about anything that you're looking for. If you want more of an urban type with a Starbucks across the street, you can find that. Or if you want a more rural area, Northern Virginia and this area just has really something for everybody.
And getting back to just kind of your heartbeat, obviously, for this area, being able to help clients find that perfect home and area that fits their needs. What's maybe one story, one place where your mind goes to as far as one of those? I don't know if the word's necessarily success stories, but what's one of those aspects that kind of stays in your mind about a way that you've been able to help a client find that perfect home that met their needs?
I have one client that we just recently closed. In fact, on Monday, on their home, and I helped them find their home. And then when some family problems came up and they needed to sell their home, I helped them sell it 2 years ago. And then I helped her buy her next home in the same neighborhood so that their kids could be in the same school. And that was just like a miracle, a success story, and even an answer to prayer, for them, for that family, because I was able to, that's the third transaction that I've had with them. And that's what I love about real estate, because so many times clients will really want to get a house. And especially a couple of years ago when there were like 15 offers, you were competing. If you had a buyer, you were competing with 15 different people, and they wouldn't get that house. And then I would always say, usually when you don't get the house, don't be too disappointed, because usually something else better comes. And I've seen that happen over and over again for people, and these buyers, they get into their dream homes, and it's just such a rewarding career to be able to help people in that sense.
And Les, I would just love to be able to share a little bit even of our experience with you, because that certainly came into play with our scenario. And I remember my wife and I, we found the property that we were really zoned in on. We had a price range. We had things that we were looking for with a ideal home that we would love to be in. And we got really disappointed because we were looking to buy during one of those bidding wars. But with that being said, I know initially the seller went with another buyer's offer, And we were really kind of disappointed because that was a house that we had really kind of set our eyes on. I mean, it was great value. We loved the area, we loved the space. And I'm so thankful that we had a realtor that took the extra steps to make sure to follow all the way through. Because as Les was continuing to kind of do his research and kind of check things out for us, he found out and checked back in with the seller that didn't give any information to you about this at first, but found out that the initial buyer's offer had fallen through based on financing. Les, you did that extra due diligence. You reached back out to us. We were able to put together a winning offer without that house even going back up on the market. So that really bulldog attitude to be able to take hold of what a client's looking for has certainly been the case in our situation, and certainly thankful for that as well too. So we're definitely a success story with our situation with Les as well, and certainly grateful for his really intensity to make sure that you're taking care of your clients to the fullest.
That is something that I do. And the story, I will always do that, especially I knew how disappointed y'all were when you didn't get that particular house. And so what I will do, I don't know if the average agent does this, but I'll just call the listing agent and a week into the process or 2 weeks after we didn't get our offer accepted. And I'll just say, how's everything going? And how sure do you think it's going to go to closing? And when I called about your particular house, she said, yes, we're going to closing. It was a Wednesday. And she said, we're going to closing on Friday. And then that Thursday, she called me back and something happened with the buyer's financing, and what you said happened. And I've had probably 4 or 5 of those exact scenarios happen for different ones of my buyers. And what a blessing that is.
I think that's also a good reminder for a lot of the folks that are also in sales too, or similar entrepreneurial type roles, as a lot of business owners are going to be listening to this as well too, is that follow-up process. Even after it seems like the client has made up their mind, it's important to stay on and just to not to be obnoxious about it, but just, hey, I know you were moving forward with this. Has everything been taken care of on that side? Is there any way that I can assist? And just a lot of times, hey, being there for if something doesn't pan out, you're going to be the first person, the first name that comes to mind in those situations too. Yes. So thinking about that, obviously we've kind of harped on this maybe from a couple different angles, but what would you say are some of those ingredients that separates an excellent realtor from a good realtor?
Well, I think an excellent realtor should have their client's best interests in mind. And as you said, we've already spoken to that. But a good realtor, sometimes people are just wanting to make a sale. That's just, and of course, everybody wants to make a sale, but that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is to make sure an excellent realtor will make sure that their clients find the property that they need for their families and just to be there for them. An excellent realtor is available if a house comes on the market. My wife works with me, and so we're able to just get some things. I remember one of our mutual friends, Angela and I were in Hawaii, and he was here in the area, and he found a house that he wanted, and he called me, and I was in Hawaii. Well, when I go on vacation, I'm still working. I always tell my clients, you can call me. I'm going away, but I'm on a working vacation. And that particular time, I called another agent to show the property to them. They loved the property. So from Hawaii, I wrote the offer. I communicated to the listing agent, and they got their offer accepted. And so those things of going the extra mile, I believe that makes an excellent realtor.
Absolutely. And Les, definitely that aspect of going above and beyond just shines through with your customer service, your coaching attitude. It's exceedingly clear in your business that that drives you and that's something that you're passionate about. And when it comes to that, I always like to let folks know here too what we're passionate about here at CoLab. You see, CoLab here was built out of this idea, co to come together, lab to create. And that idea of us, even here, coming together to create something that not only is able to help a business owner, somebody who's creating their own content, but also to be able to help business owners and content creators in the greater Fredericksburg area. And that's really what we're all about here at CoLab FXBG. And like you said, we also want to make sure that we are bringing forward the best content, the best aspects of, hey, using high technology camera, sound, lighting, etc., to make sure that we are producing the best content for our clients, whether they just need a space to be able to rent or whether they do need help with even scripting, editing, etc., on the back end here too. So we would love as well for anybody who's out there who would be interested to be able to, hey, maybe we could have you as the next guest here on the CoLab FXBG podcast and really share this space with you so that we can continue to grow and build your brand, your business, and the Fredericksburg community as a whole.
May I speak to that real quickly? I love this place. I've seen y'all as you have been building it, and I have also been able to utilize this space. I was meeting with some clients and some brand new clients who are purchasing in Washington, D.C. They're not in this area, and I did a Zoom with them from one of the lovely rooms in this particular CoLab space, and it was just a total success. And I would highly recommend CoLab to any entrepreneurs and any business people that want to make a good impression, whether it's through social media or through Zoom or whatever. And Andrew is extremely helpful, and he has been extremely helpful to me in a lot of these areas.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for that plug and that really endorsement as well, Les. And speaking of that, I want to make sure that our audience has the opportunity to be able to reach out to and to contact you. So Les, what would be the best way that somebody could either see your socials, get in contact with you if they're looking to buy or sell, maybe here in the Fredericksburg or the greater Virginia area as well too? What would be the best ways that they could reach out to you and be able to partner with you?
Thank you, Andrew. Well, my website is leswall.com. My email is les@leswall.com. That's les@leswall.com. And those are probably some of the best ways. And then my phone number, I won't go into all of that. I guess I will, 571-946-9243. I'd love to help anyone with any of their real estate goals.
Absolutely. And obviously here on the CoLab side, you can find us at the socials as well too. Our Facebook, we got Instagram, TikTok, etc. You can find us on all those channels as well as on the YouTube. And please feel free to follow along. And as we continue to share these journeys as well with our fellow business owners and content creators here in the Fredericksburg area, don't hesitate to reach out. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the CoLab FXBG podcast as we continue to build together the Fredericksburg community of business owners and content creators. See you next time.